is a show where the spirit has control. Straight talk, no chaser. So listen up close, get the medicine for your soul. Straight talk, no chaser. Telling you the truth before we hit the truth. Straight talk, no chaser. Come get all the blessings God got for you.
Hey guys, understand this is our health month. I want you to take the information you hear. This is not meant to diagnose you, but if you have any questions, you can always email us or contact your general practitioner. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Straight Talk No Chaser. I'm the host, Pastor Marcus McCarr. We're back with this month being our health month. We're kicking it off with our very own Dr. Kym. She's my doctor. She's taken care of me for the past 2 years. So I thank her for taking time out of her schedule because I know how busy she is to be with us. Well, Dr. Kym is a board certified nurse practitioner who partners with local, national, and international governments and communities to bring awareness to healthcare, mental health, and addiction medicine. She works in private practice and is the founder of GKM Training Institute, an educational vehicle designed to bring the spirit of counsel to life with various curriculums such as accredited substance abuse counseling programs. Dr. Kym Mwansa is the founder of GKM Global Kingdom Mandate, an international apostolic prophetic training ministry and marketplace business with headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Her passions in ministries are training disciples, GKM Bible Institute, intercessory prayer, healing, deliverance. She's a prophetic watchman and an apostolic midwife called to assist men in labor, encouraging the call to let go. Wow. And allow themselves to become a conduit for the baby ministry to flow. She has led, ministered, and served in national and international missions. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mwansa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I've never read your bio until just now, and I guess I should have read it because we just exchanged it. But you said something that I preached yesterday. Let go.
Actually, it sounds simple, but it's so hard to do for us.
Yes, and that was one of the issues yesterday we dealt with. But thanks for taking time out of your schedule for being with us, Doc. We wanted to jump right in, and guys. As you know, we always give it to you straight. So let's start with the health of Black America or in the Black community. Tell me, what is the leading issue, I guess, or the leading cause of death in the Black community right now?
That's funny because we have some that are tied. Heart disease is number one. Mm-hmm. Heart disease, actually subtitles could be your hypertension, your high cholesterol levels, people who have had previous strokes. Next in line is diabetes. And so we have the state of Black America as far as healthcare concerned, your heart disease and your diabetes. Third is obesity. Mm-hmm.
They always say, oh, just change your diet. Is it as simple as changing your diet?
Well, a lot of people, it is. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of people that are of color, we have maybe a genetic component. They may connect us to our ancestors and their level of healthcare, their history of hypertension, their history of diabetes. For a lot of people, we're just coming into our own as far as healthcare is concerned, because before, when I was growing up, you didn't go to the doctor unless something was seriously wrong. And we still have that type of mentality, which leads us to be the number one leaders of some of the most controllable diseases that we have in today's society.
Now, why do you think we have a fear? I know you said back in our day, it's because we're trying to do a lot of our home remedies, because I know back, you're right, we didn't go. Grandma went to the cabinet and came back with something.
Castor oil.
Yes.
Cod liver oil.
Yes.
And I'm not saying anything is wrong with those, but they do not, contrary to popular belief, they don't fix everything that ails us.
Mm-hmm. Because that's funny. Because grandma always thought if you got that castor oil in your boy, you're gonna be better tomorrow.
Uh, well, in some ways we were,
Mm-hmm.
because whether we were or not, we wasn't going to tell her we felt worse or didn't feel any better because we didn't want another spoonful.
Mm-hmm. Now, when
But
you
the
go ahead, I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was going to say, but the truth about some of the history that we've had incurred, when you look back into slavery days, a lot of times the people only had what was left over to eat. And
Mm-hmm.
so that produced a lot of things that we are favorites today, you know, fatback, um, chitlins.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's not one of my favorite, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying some of the things that we end up or had to endure and eat um, actually kind of contribute to the heart disease of today,
Now,
because
because we're not a.
we're still eating the fried pork chops, we're still eating the chitlins, we're still eating, we're still cooking our greens and our vegetables in a lot of lard.
They still make Lord.
Mhm.
I don't know that was still even around.
Oh yes, you forgot we're in the deep south. They will always make fatback and lard.
I've seen fatback, the salted with the salt on it. I've seen
Hmm.
that, but I didn't know that still Lord was even available in the stores.
Oh yes.
That's wild.
Oh
Now
yeah.
you mentioned something a few minutes ago, and I'm gonna take it back to where we're from, Africa. We were not we didn't grow up, or in our genetic makeup, we didn't eat that way. So is that why we have the higher numbers? Because our genetic makeup was not originally set to eat that? Like milk, for instance, people they say that's why we're lactose intolerant. What do you think about that?
Well, I believe different cultures or different races have different genetic makeups. Even though I believe we all came from the same man and woman at the
Mhm.
beginning of time, um, depending on our environment and how we had to live, would always alter our genetic makeup. And so we're not the original African genetic makeup that we were in Africa.
Mhm.
Mind you, over a period of 100 and for some of us hundreds of years, we've had to adapt. And so
Mhm.
anytime you have to adapt into an environment, you have to adapt into the environment, what the environment offered as far as food, shelter, and working conditions. And so before, when we were working 12 hours out in the fields, we were able to burn off the fat back. And so we still may have had somewhat of a healthy lifestyle just by our work ethic.
Mhm.
But now you put together today's environment with us mostly, especially during the COVID situation, most of us are doing online or work at home situations. Our eating habits have not changed. And
It's a
even over the
sedentary
period
lifestyle.
of the last 20 years, our eating habits, we've become more sedentary,
Mhm.
and but we're still eating the same.
Mhm. So exercise. Well, because the reason I'm about ready to ask you a question because I'm getting ready to interview a lady tonight that has never she doesn't go to the gym, but she's in wonderful shape. Exercise. How much exercise do you think a person should get a week?
I recommend for the clientele that come to see me, we could start off with at least 3 times a week, 30
Mhm.
to 45 minute sessions. And it doesn't have to be Billy Blank. It doesn't have to be, I was going to say some, but that would date me. Let's stick with Billy Blank.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be, I was going to say Richard Simmons. Remember him?
Yes, yes. And the short shorts.
Yes, yes. But he captured America with his exercise program.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
he's
it
still
doesn't
doing it, by
have.
the way.
Oh, I didn't know he was still alive.
Yes, yes. He's still
Okay.
doing it.
Well, if he's healthy, I'm okay.
Mhm.
Um, but we don't have to start out like that. We what we do is we have to move.
Mhm.
For a lot of us, we're sitting in these chairs 4 to 6 to 8 hours. We go to lunch, we come back to the chair. How are we burning the substance that we've put inside our bodies? We're not doing it with our fingers typing on the computer.
That's exercise.
So we have to.
It's movement.
It is movement, but we're talking about full body movement. Even if you're sitting, you have a sedentary job, I would recommend you get up 2 hours and at least walk around at least 5 minutes to get that blood flowing. And especially the older that we get and we're more apt for blood clots, it would behoove us to move around, even if we have a sedentary job. At least stand up. I had a client that had she said, I work on the telephones, and I said, well, what you can do, is it a wireless headset or is it a wire headset? And she said it was a wireless. I said, well, all you had to do is stand up and jog in place while you're talking to the people on the telephone.
Have you ever seen the desk that you raise up, you stand up desk? Are those good?
It would be, especially if you're able to move around. Now, it's not good if you're going to stand sedentary in place, because that's just as bad as sitting in place. You have to have movement. You have to have movement, because a lot of times when people are standing and they have to stand in one spot a period of time, they're going to lock their joints. And you, as a chiropractor, understands locking joints are not very good for long periods of time.
Great for business, but not good for people.
Right.
But yeah, so when looking at health in the Black community, and you have the male compared to the female, because it used to be, I haven't checked numbers, I haven't read up on the articles, but it is still more female coming in getting themselves checked compared to the men?
Always. And that's not just specific to the African American community. That's all communities. I think it's a male female problem more than it is a culture or race problem. Females just are built mindset wise to make sure that everyone in their family is taken care of. But a lot of times with Black and white females and Hispanic females period, we have a tendency to while we're taking care of our family, we neglect ourselves. So that's a whole nother show. But for the most part,
go into it though. Go into it a little bit.
Well, because we're caregivers. We are caregivers. Women are caregivers, whether we have families, whether we take care of neighbors, whether we take care of anyone in our community. We're innately designed, I'll put it that way, to care for people. We're nurturers. And so a lot of times, if we have children, if we have a husband, if we have mom and dad that are elderly, we are most likely the ones who are going to take care of our parents, take care of aunts and uncles, take care of our children, take care of the neighbors' children. And a lot of times at the end of the day, the only thing we have time for is sleep, if that's possible. And so we get up and start over and do the same thing. Well, mind you, all the stress, all the extra compassion that we have can take a toll on our own body. And a lot of times we won't move into looking after ourselves until we start getting sick.
I've in that being the scenario, I've seen that in my family a couple of times. Members that are no longer with us because they took care of everybody up until that point. And then when they found out about their health, it was a little late. So
because they didn't have time to go to the doctor, making appointments for their husband, running the kids to their doctor appointments and soccer games and football games and basketball games, and working 8 to 10 hours on the job, coming home, cook, help with homework. When do you have time?
Sound like we're too busy.
You bring up that subject. Let me say this: we were too busy. I believe, and people may or may not agree. I don't care, but I believe that COVID was a good thing for us because we were too busy, and it really had nothing to be honest with you, to do with culture, because I think America as a whole had a fast pace of hurry up and get it done. And so one thing I love about this particular period of time is everyone, whether you were African or African American, whether you were European or European American, whether you were Asian or Asian American, everybody had to stop and reassess how to live life from this time forward. And so to me, we were too busy. We were too busy to spend time with our families. We were too busy to stop and smell the roses. We were too busy to sleep 8 hours. We were just simply too busy. And even in that mindset, it caused stress. Stress. And so if you know anything about stress, it pumps up your cortisol levels. Your cortisol levels cause internal inflammation in your body, which aids in the heart disease. It aids in obesity, hormone disorders, mental health disorders. And so we needed a hard stop. And so for me, I understand COVID is a disease, and for some people, it's a mindset of a disease. I guess I could talk about that too. But what it did was give us a hard stop, and to me, that was divinely set up, because we needed the hard stop in order to reevaluate how we should be living life from here on out.
Now, I think I've shared with you before, but I'm not certain. I know I shared another broadcast. There was a young man who had never sat down to dinner with his family until COVID hit. He was I can't remember he was in high school. Can't remember which grade, but he said when we sat down together, it was like something so unusual, but they grew to love it because it became months upon months. Then he said now they can't wait to get to dinner to sit down and talk. And I remember you had to sit at grandmama's table to eat. You couldn't take your food to the bedroom, outside. And right. I think that was that's necessary. The family was being just demolished.
I mean, and it really has. It really has. It really has. So yes, a lot of firsts or a lot of restorations of first have occurred during this time. You realize a lot of things about yourself in the midst of crisis. You realize, a lot of people realize that they were too busy. A lot of people realize they did have a family and the family did miss them. It was, to me, we talk about, and I hear on the news and the social media aspect of it, was all the negative. And yes, people got sick and people are getting sick. And people are recovering. Some are passing away. But I look at always try to evaluate the whole realm of what happened. And to me, the overall scenario of COVID was a method of getting us back to ourselves, our real selves.
Well, that's another podcast. Yeah, I like that thought, that podcast. I'm sorry, waving I had my breast in the hand. I'm waving it, but that right there, I think we when you look at how we were, and we look at all the things that we were doing, we had to begin to itemize what was important. We begin to discuss and look at what really was things we need to focus on, and things we really need to get rid of.
Right. And that kind of takes us into the mental health aspect, because it made you introspect and made you think. We were too busy to even think about the consequences of our daily actions. I mean, you're telling me that someone finally took the time. I mean, how long has this person had their family before they took the time and had a seat and broke bread together? I mean, that becomes dangerous when you have loved ones in your life that you can't even stop to appreciate. It's dangerous. We're talking about mental health, because somewhere along the way, you got caught up in the rat race and you forgot what was really important. I mean, to be honest with you, before March, let's put a time on it. Before March, we were too busy. And to be honest with you, we were in the process of losing our minds. Can I just say that? We were in the process. we were running a fast race that we really are not prepared to run. You know how I know we're not prepared?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
the suicide rates went up. The mental health visits went up. And this is before COVID.
Okay. Okay.
The addictions have went up. Before we talked about there was a pandemic with the COVID, we have an epidemic going on, pandemic with opioid use disorders. So you can't tell me that we didn't need a hard stop so we could inhale, exhale, take a breath, say hello to our families, reevaluate what's important, look at our houses that we pay for every month. It was something that was needed because America, for one, if you look at my Ask Dr. Kym Facebook page, I had going across my cover the mental health status of America, and it was going down. It was going down. It was actually crashing and burning, and nobody talked about it.
Well, right there.
Nobody talked about it.
We don't. I'm gonna ask two questions here about that. No one talks about it because when we just staying culturally for us, and I've had pastors. Well, I don't know if you heard the pastors that are coming out saying that they're now going to counseling, and they've never gone in all their lives, but if you know in our community, in those people's darker skin, when we talk about going to go get help for mental status, I've always heard we don't do that. That is not what we do. Have you noticed that? An increase?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Of course, because of course you would have to understand the makeup of the people that I see don't look like us. And it's a shame because we have even the more pressures on our life for, let's go with Black women. We're double minorities. Yeah. And so we have to work twice as hard or maybe 4 times as hard to get recognized, to get better paying jobs. The list is long. And so, and we're taking care of the children that we have. We may or may not have a spouse. We may or may not have a supporting father in the picture, helping us take care of the children. And so I hear the saying, women are doing it for ourselves. We had no choice. In a lot of arenas, in a lot of situations, we've had no choice. And so can you imagine the mental and the internal pressure of having to juggle everything?
So now that's stress on
that's
you.
Past stress.
And then you're looking at what you got to do. The kids got to be here, there. And then you also got to worry about, because there's a lot of mothers we're talking about. That's white, Black mothers, all nationalities. They're running, doing 2 or 3 jobs.
Let me tell you, stress does not have a color.
No,
stress does not have a color.
No.
Addiction doesn't have a color. Mental illness doesn't have a color. That's why I was saying America was going to hell in the handbasket before COVID hit. I think there had to be divine intervention or we would have crashed and burned as a nation. And we still got some flames going on aside some other circumstances. But to be honest with you, we wouldn't have been in the good mental health to be able to deal with what we're dealing with now.
Heading nowhere fast.
We're about to hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. It's not just political. To be honest with you, it's not just racial. We have not we have not looked inside of ourselves to really understand what we believe to be able to be out there marching. You know, I'm gonna go there, okay? Because we have we have not looked in the mirror lately. You said something really important. When we talk about mental health and we talk about the African American or people of color, for that matter, community, a lot of us do not go to get help. We understand we're suffering from anxiety. We understand we're suffering from depression. We understand that we deal with things with alcohol and drugs, but we will not admit it. And so you're talking about a people who have been under so much internal pressure for not just the last 20 years, not for the last 50 years, but we're talking about 400 and 500 years of oppression and different forms of fashion, trying to survive. I mean, in my head, I'm listening to the theme of Good Times. Okay. It was more a theme of Good Time than it was the Jeffersons. We thought we was moving on up, but we were still shucking and surviving, as the words say in Good Times thing. We're still doing that. We think we're moving on up, but we're still at the bottom of the totem pole.
You just crushing dreams right now. You crushing people's
I apologize, but I understand what I see.
I
understand what I see. It's a facade. Because when you're not able to internally or spiritually take the temperature of where you are, then you're living in a fantasy. And you're keeping up with the Joneses and you're keeping up with the Kardashians, and you're really not in your own world.
Say that again. Say that again. Go on. Go. You know how you throw shoes. That's a shoe moment right there.
But it's real. It's real. And so we're looking at the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and comparing ourselves to them, purchasing what they and I'm not, look, mind you, I'm not downing what they're doing, but what I'm telling you is that's not real life for the average African American female. It's not real life for the African American male. Real life is taking a self-assessment and seeing how you were created and seeing how you can not only survive, because that's what we are in. We're in survival mode. There's the racism, the overt and the covert racism has always had us in the survival mode, not the striving mode, not the accomplishment mode, because only the maybe top 1% of millionaires around the world are African Americans.
That's a high number, 1%. You know that.
It probably is less than 1%.
Yeah.
So what are the rest of the 99% of us are doing? We're surviving. And we're surviving in other people's world. We've not taken the time mentally, spiritually, or physically to figure out what we need.
Your bio said something important.
Yes, to what we need.
The marketplace business with headquarters. Okay.
And so it's really time. I love this time where people have had to slow down. And I'm hoping that they take the time to emotionally get themselves together, because I tell myself all the time, how people perceive you is not really how it is, because they're looking from the outside in. It's what you believe about yourself that really matters. Have we taken the time to assess ourselves?
Man in the mirror.
That's what it comes back down to. I don't want to see another person out there marching for their rights if they really don't believe what they're marching for. Have several seats and figure out who you really are. And then it will be something that can sustain you through hard times. It's not what other people believe about us, it's what we believe about ourselves.
The mentally stable person.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not. We're not. Because I'm looking at the patterns of us and how we react to each event. It's a reaction.
It's a reaction.
But it's a reaction. If we are really serious about changing the tides of who we are in society, why can't we be proactive instead of reactive? Everybody jumps on the bandwagon to react to another murder, to another shooting, to another killing. But we're not even proactive in our own neighborhoods.
Ooh, look at you.
Why don't Black Lives Matter when Pookie shoot Ray Ray?
Pookie and Ray Ray.
They were both black. Why don't they Black Lives Matter?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Truth
They don't
is
want
just what it is. The Black lives only matter when somebody else intrude into our madness.
Ooh, intrude into our madness.
And
I like
into our
that statement.
madness.
I
But
like
it's
that
true.
statement because we, we always want to keep in our community. We always got those secrets when someone intrudes in our madness.
Yeah, those secrets.
Yeah,
Those
now
secrets
have caused a lot of people mental illness. Matter of fact, we kept mental illness we kept it a secret so long. We're now because I'm talking to people now that are experiencing things that they're just now finding out that their great grandmother had it, but they kept great grandmama in the back room.
Right.
And they never got help. They never told anybody what was going on with great grandma. They said she stayed back there.
Mm-hmm.
And so now with people with
you
the residual.
open the door. You open the door about them secrets. That is one of the reasons why we have not come to ourselves, because of the secrets, because of what Uncle did. And everybody in the family knew what Uncle did to me, but nobody wanted to address it because we don't bring other people into our business. And so now I'm having nightmares about Uncle being on top of me, and Uncle wasn't supposed to be on top of me.
Yes. And that's, you said that, how many people, well, I'm pretty sure but people that don't know, that haven't heard, that story is a repeated story.
Oh, yes. I hear it quite often. And I'm not talking about the females.
True. That's a repeated story. Guys, women, they all are saying we went back and told someone and they never did anything about it.
Yeah, we told our mother, we told our grandmother, we told anybody that would listen, and we was told, hush, child, you don't know what you're talking about.
And now we're wondering why people are dealing with the things they're dealing with.
Right. There were monsters that were created in our own community. These weren't outside monsters.
You knew
and so now, so now I'm living through the trauma day in and day out, and I'm 57 years old. And my ideal of men, or my ideal of authority, is tainted because someone who I thought should have loved me the right way loved me the wrong way. And so now my ideal of love is messed up. So now my ideal of love is perverted. And so that's why I'm saying that it's time for us to do some introspection. It's time for us to get healed emotionally and mentally with the traumas. And I'm not talking about outside traumas. I'm talking about internal traumas. Because it would matter very little to me what other people thought about me if I thought well about myself. If I thought well about my fellow African Americans. But I'm tainted because of my childhood nightmares that had nothing to do with 5-0. Had nothing to do with police brutality. It had nothing to do. It was family brutality. It was family trauma. Uncle such and such, who was already mentally disturbed, you all let him babysit him.
Ooh, this doesn't turn into a sermon. Go ahead. Preach.
And so you knew he wasn't right in the head. And you let him babysit them boys.
You set them boys up.
You set them up for failure for the rest of their life. Because now they have a secret that they had to keep because you told them to keep it a secret, or Uncle such and such was going to jail. And now they're wrestling with their sexuality. They're wrestling with their mental health. They're wrestling with their spirituality. They're wrestling for who am I? And to be honest with you, he's tainted who you are. He made you, his violent act of love made you question who you are. Let's go ahead and tell the truth about what happens in our communities. And so now we're dealing with all these internal battles that we've had scars from our childhood. And now we come to the outside and we're ill prepared to fight anything else because we're already coming out into the world wounded.
And with a secret.
With
Quiet.
secrets.
Yeah, quiet, told to be quiet.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's this man wrestling with his manhood, and there's this woman who's wrestling with her womanhood, and now we have further abuse from the external scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And so now me as a Black female is labeled angry.
Mm-hmm.
But did you ever ask me what caused or what spawned or what triggered my anger? Was I
That's
angry
the
when I was
question.
being molested at 6 years old? Or was I angry when I was being raped at 12 years old? Or was I angry when my mom had several uncles coming to the house?
Mm.
What part of it made me angry? Or was I angry when my boyfriend said he loved me and I gave my virginity to him and I haven't seen him and I got his baby? What made me angry?
That's a whole
Tell me
nother
which
story.
part. Come on, tell me which part.
That's
I
a
can jump
whole
on
nother,
all of them.
that's
Tell
a
me
whole
what
nother
made me
show.
angry. And
It's a
so now,
that became a big ball. It's rolled into a big ball. Now
thank you. What made me angry?
Mm-hmm.
And now the very people who are calling me angry was the people who created the anger in me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And went to another race because I wasn't good enough. Because I'm an angry Black woman with your children. Okay.
This health month has totally changed.
Okay. Now
now I
I
got a question.
can flip it any way you want to.
Yeah. Now that we're there, how do we get help?
Get help. Realize that you need help.
Mm-hmm.
Your reality may not be the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may be angry.
Mm-hmm.
The label may fit, but what triggered the anger?
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out. Get some help to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I always getting, and these are the questions that we ask. I ask myself the same thing. Why do we get the same man with different names?
Ooh, that's a whole nother, that's one of them late night Friday night questions right there.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna keep it G. I'm gonna keep it G. But these are some of the internal battles that we have as Black women, as Black men, Latino women, because I've had discussions with them and they have some of the same scenarios. Even our Caucasian brothers and sisters are having the same issues. Some of this
So
stuff
these
is
issues are just
universal.
global. They're not even.
It really is. It really is. But me speaking as African American female, I'm talking about what we need to do to get ourselves together, to get some healing. Whether you're 27, 37, 47, 57, we need some healing.
So it's not too late.
Oh, it's never too late. Long as you have breath in your body, you're able to evaluate, you know what, how did I get on this path to nowhere, as you said earlier.
I back 6 years ago, I think 6, 7 years ago, I had to go talk to a counselor. That was probably one of the most. I talked about things I hadn't. You know how you put things in a box back there?
You have to, for survival's sake.
Yeah, and when you start opening up, I was like, "Whoa, I forgot about that." And then things would start coming out in the room, and you're like, "Okay," and you try to shut it down, but they keep asking questions. They keep sitting there looking at you. You're looking at them. You keep talking, and and so
it start pouring
it's
out.
relieving. Yeah, it's a that you were here when you came, and now you're here. And each time you go, we got a little less. So I think it's an issue we don't talk about it. I know we don't talk about it a lot. In no category, in no form, unless you specifically seek out those type of forms. I don't think, like, everybody's got a cancer border. I mean, advertisement everywhere. Everybody got a hypertension advertisement. They don't talk about mental health.
Right, because there's still a stigma in America. Whatever color you are, it's still a stigma because I have several people that come to me and they say, I come to you because I really don't want to make an appointment with a psychiatrist. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I got a degree in psychology because it will help me to be able to take you where you need to be and let you see your way out. Because a lot of times, just like you said, you had things in the closet. You have put some of the things that have occurred in your life some of the traumas. And everything is not a sexual trauma. So mind you, it could be a mental abuse. It could be a verbal abuse. It could be a situation that happened that you saw that happened to somebody else. But all of these things affect your mental capacity for understanding. And so our bodies, we were made specifically to have a survival mechanism. And so if I can't comprehend what's going on in my life, my mind has a survival mechanism to say, okay, let's put it in the closet. Let's put it in the closet because we have to survive. And for those who, what we used to say back in the day, have a nervous breakdown, either their closet is full or they didn't have the capacity to put it in the closet. And so they had to deal with it face value and they weren't ready and they had no help. And so it overwhelmed them and they shut down.
Do you, because I tell people for chiropractic, they don't have to come every day, but it's like getting your oil changed in your car. You come, we do that every 3-4 months. And I tell them, come see us. You don't have to come every week, every month, but check in periodically. Let's to come check and make sure everything's aligned. You think that's good, make sure everything, you think that's good for mental health as well?
Oh, I think so. Awesomely, for everyone. I mean, we on the National Institute of Health recommends that we have an annual assessment of our physical health. For me in my office, I do PHQ-9s and GAT-7s because I want to understand if there's a component of depression that you may not even recognize or some anxiety, stress going on in your life. I need to know. Because you're telling me, and let's give a scenario. A person comes in with hypertension. Hypertension is not just with the food. Hypertension is not just caused by the salt, but some of the causative matters for the blood pressure to go up is stress. And so if I can help understand the stressors in your life, I can also help give solutions to what triggers the stressors, which can in turn help your blood pressure to normalize. So it's not just about the food. It's not just about being overweight. It's not all of that. We have to take a holistic view of what's going on in your physical body, what's going on in your mental health, what's going on in your spiritual health. Do I have a way to relieve the pressures of life? Do I have a solution? Do I have someone that I'm able to go to?
And we've taken those and we've tried to separate them. Spiritual
There's
life.
There's no separation.
That's why I want to hear you say. Because
there is no separation.
You can tell people that till you're blue in the face and they don't believe you. I want somebody else to say it.
but it's true. So I just got finished saying that your stress can manifest in your physical body as high blood pressure, as anxiety, as panic attacks, as your heart palpitating, which means it's in a fast beat or a regular fast beat. So the things that are going on in your mental health does spill over into your physical health.
Now, how have you have this in the United States, but you've gone international with this as well. What have you been able to do internationally?
Well, I've been doing health missions for maybe 12 years. And what I do is I go to different countries and I, well, I kind of started out here in the US because, of course, this is where I live. But I realized that high blood pressure, diabetes, anxiety, depression is not just an American problem. Healthcare, in general, is not an American problem. It's a global problem. And so the same things that I see here in Atlanta, Georgia, and the southeast portion of America, and all across America, I saw in Europe, I saw in Africa, I saw in Central America. And so disease processes are not just honing in on Americans, they're honing in on the world. We have some of the same concerns. We have some of the same pressures. And for the majority of them, we don't have any kind of relief valve to be able to help these pressures, to be able to understand why my blood pressure is out of control. And so I take this same thought process. Even when it comes to addiction medicine, I thought maybe America was the only one out of control until I got to London and realized London problem is probably an edge worse than ours. Because at least we are talking about it. When I was there, I had a conversation with a mental health provider, and she was booked for the next 2 years. So if someone had to make an appointment, how can you, when you're having an anxiety attack or your depression, wait 2 years to get help?
Yeah, that's unusual. That's never heard of that.
No, it's not unusual, because to be honest with you, if you look at the average psychiatric or psychiatrist here or mental health provider here, they're booked from I think one person told me 3 to 6 months.
Wow.
And so if you're having a right now crisis, you're going to have to go to your primary care and hope they can handle the mental health component of you. I'm just happy to be one that can.
I got a question. So is it because of the lack of, I guess the lack of psychiatrists available, or like lack of people that deal with mental health issues, or we just have that greater number?
Both. We have a greater number, and we have a critical shortage of mental health providers, especially here in the South. Especially here in the South. The Bible Belt is one of the worst places to address mental health issues.
You know, we got the Bible. I don't know why you saying that.
I love the Bible.
We call on Jesus.
And we do call on Jesus. But Jesus has given mental health providers the ability, just like he's given doctors the ability to be able to evaluate what's going on with your body, or evaluate what's going on with your mind, and help you with solutions to your issues.
That's key, because I tell people when it comes to marriage counseling and all that type of thing, I think we do a great job at the church, but there's certain things we can't handle. Matter of fact, I look back on classes I've heard about. In those classes, we talk about Jesus, but we don't get the nitty gritty of issues. So people go into marriages and they walk into one day, she angry because, or he angry because of this. And you like, we didn't talk about that in counseling. They told us to pray. They told us to pray. And then you got people out there now, they're dealing with issues they don't know who to go talk to, because your church didn't help you when you first decided you walked this aisle.
And actually, I understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I created a biblical counseling program for one of my schools, is because I found that a lot of pastors and a lot of church leaders were not equipped on how to take what the Bible says and help the people. You can't just preach at them, okay, and it be okay. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And so I appreciate you preaching at me to help build my faith. But when I have been in a sex trade for 15 years and I come out, you're going to have to help me take the fragmented parts of my body and my brain and my mental health and my spiritual health and put them together one session at a time. That goes beyond preaching. So you have to know how to negate the word of God and take what the word of God says and help the person apply the word of God. So this takes time. This takes sessions. This may take months. This may take years.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this person is 57 years old, been prostituted for 20 of those 57 years. And And I do believe in instant healing, but I also and I do believe in deliverance. But guess what? When deliverance happen, we need to be able to put those fragments back together in the person so they can become whole.
Yep. Yep.
And so if we're going to preach and teach the word of God, let's do it holistically.
See,
And let's do it with understanding.
that's why I think people like yourself are valuable, very valuable, because you understand both sides. And I believe we as a church, we should find people. And we got to admit to where it's beyond my scope. It's like you come to a chiropractor office with a broken arm. It's beyond my scope.
I got you.
It's beyond my scope. So when we get as pastors, as leaders, there's got to be, you have to be able to link up with somebody. You can't,
right.
You don't have all the answers. And I think some of us sit down with all the answers. We like, oh, I got it. Just bring them on in, talk to me, set up a meeting. We set up a meeting, then they leave out. Instead of broken, then they have broken, and you didn't put nothing back together. So we still walk out with this issue.
Right. Because, and so that is, and as I was saying, for those pastors who want to journey a little further with an understanding, that is one of the reasons why I set up the school. Is not just to understand the Bible, because a lot of pastors and leaders do understand the Bible, but do we have the how to apply the Bible to the sex trade, to the prostitute, to the person who's addicted? Do we know how? Do we know the psychology of the mind? Because a lot of people refute psychology, but psychology is just the study of the mind. It's just a study of the mind. And so if you don't understand how the mind works, the mind is what makes decisions for the spirit man and the flesh. Oh, come on, church. But you don't understand the mind. And you don't understand that the mind is the decider of what the spirit does. Okay. All right. No, we're not going to go. I'll leave that alone. So you have to get that understanding in order to be able to bring a holistic healing to the person. Because if you don't gain their mindset, if you don't help them to understand their own mindset, nothing will be healed.
Okay. They're still, when they leave you, they got to go find another person to help them further, because you left them broken. You left them unhealed.
They came in with their pieces in their hand and they left with the same pieces. Because you didn't know how to connect the dots.
Now, Dr. Kym, you've mentioned your school that you've started. Tell us a little bit about your schools. Tell them how the people can find you. And also, let's go back real quick. Your international travels have taken you. You just got back a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Almost 2 weeks ago, yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that you can. I know there's a lot going on that you and I talked about, but tell us about how the experience, what God did there, because it's still a Christian-based podcast, guys. So we talked about health, but we still gonna talk about Jesus in this too.
Okay, and actually, so myself and a team went over to Kenya to bring economics to a town called Kym L. Have a collaboration with a ministry there called Lighthouse Ministry. How y'all doing? Because I know y'all gonna see this. And pastor and a businessman, Noah Opesa, had a dream that God would bring economics to his town. And so through research and talking with a couple of friends of his, they contacted him. He contacted me through them. And we've been talking for about 1.5 years. He and his wife are local pastors that were sent from a bigger town in Kenya to Kym L, which is a smaller town, a rural town. When you visited it, feel like you've been back in time at least about 30 years. And we're talking about economics. We're talking about technological. We're talking about bikes and cell phones. We're talking about dirt floors and computers. And so they're trying to come into the 21st century, but they have no infrastructure to be able to bring the people, because it takes knowledge to be able to come forth. And so if I don't know anything about the computer, if I don't know anything about the internet except for the cell phone, I have a limited capacity to move forward as the other cities have done. Now we have Nairobi, and Nairobi, for the most part, looks like a American city per se, in some parts, where, you know, with your big buildings, your internet. But then you go out to other cities in the country, and it looks like you've stepped back in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so God was able to allow us to go over and start teaching business concepts to the local people. And so that is what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't just a beginning, but this is going to be a continuous relationship where we bring resources, where we bring people, and where we set up infrastructures in this city to be able to move the people forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we were over there 2 weeks. We were able to do the business concept classes. We were able to meet with community leaders and church leaders. And we were able to bring healthcare workshops to the young people. Now, what surprised me the most is the passion of the young people to want to move forward out of the condition that they're in into something better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that fueled me to be able to do some things that we're working on, to, let me see how much I can say, to contact some companies to be able to tap into their resources to bring infrastructure into that particular place. I'm just trying to make sure, because we're in negotiations now.
Yes.
I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time. I know.
But we are moving forward, and we need partners. We need people who are willing to give what they know. And we're not just talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ and preaching only, because Jesus did more than preaching. He wasn't just a talker, he was a doer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about bringing the kingdom of God to earth, we talk about bringing the fullness of everything God is to earth. And the fullness is bringing people out of poverty. The fullness is bringing education to people who have a desire for education. The fullness is for people to be able to feed their families and have decent homes. That's the fullness. It's not just hooping and hollering. The fullness is bringing an impact to the 7 mountains. And you know, I'm very passionate about the 7 mountains of influence.
Mm-hmm.
These are the systems of the world that has the steering wheel of the world. And so if we don't have a grasp of education, we don't have a grasp of business, we don't have a grasp of government, we don't have the grasp of arts and entertainment, we need these grasp, we need the grasp of media. And so these people in Kenya have a desire to come forth and be able to bring back and restore what was lost and what was stolen. That's a whole nother podcast. But this is the desire God has given me to help them do it. And so I welcome anyone who has a profession or a skill that they believe that will help the Kenyan people to be able to get in contact with me, so we can get you connected to be able to, whether you can teach the skill. The one thing that I'm trying to get set up is the infrastructure of the internet. So you may not have the ability to go over, but if we can get you to record, or Skype, we have Zoom, we have pre-recorded YouTube. I mean, we have so many things that we could bring to the people, only if people are willing to give what they know.
Tell us how we find you. You haven't told us that
Okay.
yet.
Okay. I have many ways you can find
Yes.
me. For more information on being able to personally make an impact to Kenya, we have a website, gkmalliance.com. And so you could view our Alliance webpage. We're also creating, as I speak, a Kenya project on gkmtraining.com because we want to add an educational component to Kym L Kenya. And so you'll be able to find where you could, if you have an education or a profession that you're able to teach, or you're willing to even go. Some people willing to pack up and go. You could find more resources, or even get in touch with me through both of those websites. Or you can touch base with me on Facebook or Instagram. I have an Ask Dr. Kym page. I have a GKM Alliance page on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to go through all that, my telephone number is 678-561-7115.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I think that's the easiest one, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Now, we talked about Kenya and all the things you did there. You have a school.
Okay.
Talk about, tell us about
I
those.
do have a couple of schools.
Yes.
I have one that on the GKM training website, you'll find out about the different schools that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I am accredited with a national accreditation program for substance abuse counseling. And so we have a substance abuse counseling program. We have a gambling abuse counseling program. We have an anger management program. And we have a program that teaches you how to do conflict resolutions. So that's one portion of the school. For those who are more interested in ministry, we have a school of ministry. We have 2 tiers in the school of ministry, and we also have a new program that teaches leaders and those who are interested in and have the spirit of counsel, and our Bible counseling program. And so you can find both of them on gkmtraining.com.
That ministry class, guys, be ready, get ready. Sleep is optional. Don't you ever forget that. No, I'm joking. No, it's a great course. Great course. Dr. Kym, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with me. Guys, we've tried for months. We finally got it together. I think it was a great time because now we get a chance to talk about Kenya and tell people more about that. And I appreciate you, Dr. Kym, that you had in your bio midwife. Yes, she's a midwife. She's pushed us. She's pushed a lot of us through. She's giving birth to a lot of us. We appreciate her. I tell people that's my mentor right there. And so I thank God for her. Dr. Kym, thank you again. Tell everybody I said hello. Guys here at Straight Talk No Chase, we want to thank you again for taking time out of your schedules. Don't forget, we are also on Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Pop Gospel Radio. So don't forget to find us there. Those are some of the older shows. Those are just now getting on with us, trying to catch up to where we've been, to where we're going now. Go back to that. And then look for us to Eternal Life Ministry. We're going to be live starting there. I'm looking at December. I got to give it the company, make sure everything's worked out. But that's what we're looking at doing that too. So, guys, again, thank you for taking time out of your schedules. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. We'll see you. God bless.
Bye.